I'm keeping my eyes trained here, straight on Rick. Our lives are in Rick's hands, so I think we should be very kind to Rick. These 27 years of doing this, most of them great bus drivers. Great. There goes a little turkey ran across the street.
Wild turkey.
They're breeding right now. I know you live for that. What was I saying? Pathetic. Oh well. But that's where we're going to stop. That old Presbyterian church. It was burned during the war, but rebuilt right after the war. There's I love old trees. There's an old magnolia tree here that is, golly, it has to be at least over 200 years old. David Staley was the commander of the 4th Corps. By the way, does anyone know why I call them Federals and not Union soldiers? Anyone have a clue?
That's what they call them.
That's right. They never called them Union soldiers during the war. They were Federal troops, U.S. troops, or national troops. They never called them Union soldiers. They fought for the Union. They might have been Unionists, but that was post-war modern authors. And Ed Bars, among many, confirmed that. It took me years to break my habit 15, 20 years ago of saying Union soldiers. I said that my whole life, but that's why I call them Federals. David Stanley was commander of the 4th Corps, and of course Jacob D. Cox, commander of the 23rd Corps, and John McAllister Schofield, commander of this Federal Army. 26,000 strong. As well as 21,000 infantry, more, with artillery and whatever. Now we're getting sort of close, so I'm going to be watching and be quiet here while we get our logistics right here. Start looking right up here. We're going to take a right there where that sun is coming on me quicker than I thought. And only one of you on the bus has been here. That's one of my objectives, is to take you places you've never been. You see that big tree right there? That is a magnolia tree. And when you see it's grown into graves, and that, for this area, that's mighty big. Take a look, get to the fork and take a right. Confederate soldiers, take a right, the other right. And the branches are in the way a little bit. That's grown. We'll pull. See how that's grown into the graves? The Confederate soldiers buried there. This was not like this last year. Oh well. I'm sorry. Yay. And then we'll turn right and then just park right there. Look at the view. Look at the hill. Look at the topography, the terrain. It's all about terrain. And look, the high ground. Let's dismount. let's form up a little bit closer here, folks. Somebody asked, I'll tell a little bit about myself. I'm a good storyteller. How about that? You don't want to hear, you didn't come here about me, but I was at the Car House for 20 years, director for 11. I've appeared on a lot of documentaries. I'm writing some books and articles I've written, and I lived here most of my life, and blah, blah, blah. That's about enough about me. And but please feel free to ask any questions. I'm at the Lotes house now. We will stop there on Friday. I'm going to eat lunch next door and take you through there and whatever. Mount Carmel Presbyterian Church. The church was burned during the war. This was built right after the war, rebuilt. And of course there's a cemetery over there. Confederate soldiers are buried there. Imagine now, Wilson's cavalry dismounted along the high ground. To my left and to my right. A section of cannons are up here. Skirmishers are out in front down the Louisville Pike. They fall back into this high ground. Confederates attack. They're driven back. Forrest, as he usually does, hit them on the ends with Buford's Kentuckians. Flank them to the left, flank them to the right, and attack straight on and drive the Federals off this hill. And they take, that's why I feel it's so important, is that they moved straight down that Louisburg Pike we came on, the Federal cavalry, all the way into Franklin. Schofield wired, to Thomas that Wilson is unable to cope with Forrest. And Wilson says, watch out for your flanks, as he's running, taking his way off into Franklin. So the Federal Army is without cavalry, except for 2 regiments that did very, very well. They move out from Spring Hill about 2.5 miles, 3 miles, I think, and start slowing down Forrest cavalry, moving up this Mount Carmel Road, which is now called Duplex Road. Duplex Road is Mount Carmel Road, Mount Carmel Church. And we'll touch on that scenario next. Before this stand, Wilsons have been pushed back at Huey's Crossroads and on and on and on. Flank, push back, here. And Wilson's supposed to stay connected with this Federal Army and driven right out of the water. Jackson's division, who is that? That's Ross's Texans and Armstrong's Mississippians, pursue them on into Franklin, and Chalmers' division and Buford's division swing and start moving up this Mount Carmel Road towards Spring Hill. That's about 5 miles. I call it to the west. It's not true west, but 5 miles. Start pushing towards Spring Hill. Hood's infantry is moving down that Davis Ford Road that we'll connect with a little bit. And what is that Spring Hill at this moment? They're moving up, not quite yet. This is 8 a.m. 8 a.m. this has occurred. And Forrest, let's see how many miles would that be. They were already ridden about 15 miles, and now they're going to, or more, then now they're going to push into Spring Hill. That's another 5 miles. Horses can only go so far. They have to, by the way, it takes 11 pounds of fodder to keep them serviceable every day. They can live on 4 pounds, but 11 pounds. And a horse urinates on the, I know you live for this, a horse urinates on the average about 11 gallons a day. They have to stop to pee, by the way. They can't move with the manure. They can't move while they're doing that. And, but they're, that's another one I stole from Ed. I told him, I said, Seamus, I'll steal everything from you. Because I love him so much. The mentors he is to all of us. But Hood's plan is working. The Federal Army, where's the infantry? Except for 7,000 coming up to Spring Hill. They'll get there about 11-ish, 11:30-ish. As far as moving up this Carmel Road and being slowed down, the Federal cavalry will describe that as we're moving on. But if you read these memoirs of most of these generals, take it with a grain of salt, please, because they're going to tell the good things and they're going to leave off the bad things. Hood did not mention Cobb's Farm. Only one thing in the OR is that he counterattacked, which is a lie. That is not true. Okay, let's say it's a fault. Let's say the veracity for truth is questionable. How about that? Very. This didn't happen. And And Sherman, let's be fair, Pickett's Mill didn't happen. At least in his memoirs, it didn't happen. Didn't note it. Didn't happen. So you got to take these memoirs with a grain of salt. Schofield, too, he, or right after the war, that he wasn't fooled. Everything's fine. Everything's great. Well, you be the judge. You got 16,000 infantry at Columbia, and you got 7,000 up here at Spring Hill with 800 wagons, 15 miles north, and you got your federal cavalry in Franklin. You're separated by 3 things. I think he's in a little bit of trouble, don't you?
Isolated.
You don't have to be Patton or Douglas MacArthur or Hannibal to figure that out. I think he's in big trouble. And he was fooled. They stayed by the Duck River at Columbia until about 11:30, the infantry, and then start moving down this Highway 31, which is the Columbia Pike from Columbia, moving towards Spring Hill. For the 10th time or 5th time, where's the federal cavalry? They're in Franklin by now. And you got Wagner's division, you're going to hear a lot about 5,000 men, 800 wagons, artillery, no more than a couple of federal cavalry regiments, and that's about 7,000 at Spring Hill. So everything is an A right now. Everything is working great for Hood and the Army of Tennessee. Everything. Extremely well. And Schofield's in big but I think it's so important to note this. Tactical situation, there's one component of this federal army out of the way, and that's Wilson. Wilson is thoroughly unable to cope with force. That's what Schofield and Warren Thomas. And this is not Jeb Stuart. And I admire Jeb Stuart. I like Jeb Stuart. I grew up reading about him. I love Jeb Stuart. Whole different ballgame, Jeb Stuart and Forrest. One example, in Virginia, he tore up the Baltimore, Ohio, I believe, railroad. Jeb Stuart, 3 days they fixed it. Forrest, the West Tennessee campaign in late '62, starting at Clifton, Parker's Crossroads, Trenton, blah, blah, blah. 280 miles, he tore up every bridge, every trestle for 280 miles, except for Moscow, Kentucky. Is it pronounced Moscow or Moscow? Oh well, there's just one trestle left. And 280 miles, they took them 3 months to repair that. 3 months, and all of everything. 3 months to repair that one. Now that's how you tear up a railroad. That's how you tear. Forrest's a master of tearing up stuff. You know? Unbelievable. That's how you tear up a railroad. And that's Ed's line too, by the way. No shame whatsoever. And so the first component of the Spring Hill scenario, an A, total success. The ALT coming down the Davis Ford Road. An A, the federal infantry still back at Columbia. Schofield's in big trouble, big trouble. And we're going to go through this, the mistakes I feel Hood made, and you be the judge. You're all of his stories. You studied this for most of your lives, or even if you started later in your lives, you still have a great deal of knowledge that most people do not have not acquired as well. And there's one Confederate soldier, Augustus Raffington, along about 528 Mississippi Cav, that was killed here. They're buried on the other side of that Magnolia tree. It's not marked. And he was from Jamaica. He was white. From Jamaica, he had that revolt there. He moved to England, then moved to Mississippi. He's 42 years old. And he was killed on over the Senate in Memphis. By the way, Augustus Raffington. God rest his soul. God rest his soul. So are there any questions about this scenario so far? Of any kind. If you'd like to get a photograph of that tree, I suggest you do, or just look at it, because it's at least 200 years old. At least 200 years old there.
Where is Hurgis per quarter?
That is about, it's about, it's not existing now, but it's somewhere about 7 miles that way. I call it south. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wilson really made a big mistake there.
Big mistake. Although